Hello friends, up till now in unit 1 we have discussed services. We talked about the different types of services, we talked about the trends in India and across the globe, we talked about the reasons for growth in service sector, we classified the services in different types, and then we also had a look at how goods compare with services. We talked about the service characteristics like credence qualities, their being high in experience qualities. We talked about service mix categories. We talked about the unique characteristics of services which make them very different from goods and which require different strategies from the marketer also. And then we talked about the marketing implication of intangibility and inseparability. Today we are going to discuss marketing implication of variability. I hope you understand. Variability, we have seen that services are likely to be more variable. The quality of service is likely to be more variable than the quality of goods, and we had seen the reasons behind that. But how do you deal as a marketer? How do you deal with this? Number one, recruit the right candidate. What do we mean by this? Let's take an example of two teachers who are teaching in the same college, but one is teaching very sincerely while the other person is not that sincere in his duties. The first teacher is taking all the pains, he's collecting all the examples, he's delivering the best of the presentations, he's giving the best of the case studies and project works. The other teacher is not doing anything. One reason could be that the other teacher was not fit enough to teach. Had the second teacher been screened for whether he likes to teach or not, how innovative he is as a teacher, we would have probably got a candidate who likes to teach, is innovative as a teacher, is creative as a teacher, and then that particular person would probably also have provided the same quality of services, and then there would have been no difference in teacher 1 and teacher 2, because teacher 2 would have been a candidate who inherently likes service. Abhi, what happened? We recruited somebody who does not like service, or who does not like teaching, or who does not have the creativity, who does not have the innovations to teach well, who is not creative enough to teach well, and because of which there is a lot of difference in the service quality. So first thing that you can do is you have to recruit the right candidate who possesses the desired traits. For example, if you are in a hotel and let's say you have to recruit the waiters, right? Let's say you are in a restaurant and you have to recruit waiters. Now please understand, the job of a waiter is a very, very important job, because even if the food is good but the waiter has not been very pleasant with the customer, he has not been very courteous with the customer may not return. So in that case, what you will do? You will ensure that you only recruit candidates who have customer orientation, who are naturally keen to satisfy the customer, because only these candidates would be able to provide good quality service to the customers, right? So you have to recruit the right candidate, and somehow if you are not able to recruit the right candidate, you can still do what? You can train them well. What do we mean by this? Now, if you have at any point of time got any opportunity to call up the customer care number of various service providers, for example the customer care number of maybe the gas agency or maybe the telecom service that you are using, you would find that all of them in different stances were using the same script and they were talking to you in the same manner. They probably would have greeted you first, Namaskar sir, aapka swagat hai, like this, and then they would have dealt with you very, very courteously कि क्या श्रीमान जी आप अपनी बात दोबारा से कहेंगे, this way. So what you can do is, to ensure that there is no variability, you can also train them well. You can standardize your training, which means you are providing the same kind of training to everybody, and when you provide the same kind of training to every service provider, then all of them would provide the service of the same nature and there would be less chances of variation in the service quality. Again, in the example that I took earlier, if you have got 8 waiters and you train them well and you provide the same training to all of them, naturally when they actually deal with customers in the restaurant, they are more likely to provide the same quality of service. They are less likely to vary a lot. They are more likely to talk to the customer in the same courteous fashion. And this way you can rein in variability. This way you can control variability. Now, third thing that you can do is you can standardize the service process. What do we mean by this? You can define the service process and then every service provider will have to follow that. I'll give you another example now. I had taken the example of a waiter in a restaurant. Now what you can do is you can standardize the service process and you can say, for example, that every customer who comes in will have to be greeted with a namaste, good morning or good afternoon, and along with that the service provider, the waiter, will also have to smile. Now you have come up with a standardized service process for all the waiters which are there. Now whosoever the waiter is, he may or may not like to greet the customer, or he may or may not like to greet the customer with a pleasant smile, but now he'll have to go by the service process that you have prescribed. And now when he'll do that, every single customer, no matter who the waiter is dealing with, that particular customer, every single customer would be treated in the same manner and there would be less chances of variability, right? Now I've taken this example of a particular firm and how to, now this is an example of the service process that they have prescribed for their employees, and have a look at what they have said. And this is basically a standard operating procedure for how to report to work or shift, right? And this is the service organization from which I have taken up. Arrive at the staff gate 20 minutes prior to the beginning of the shift, and then second is get the uniform issued and then change in the locker room. So they have prescribed right in the beginning that you have to come at least 20 minutes before. You can come more than 30 minutes before the opening, before the beginning of the shift, but you have to come at least 20 minutes before the shift begins. So what does this mean? This means that every single service provider, every single employee will turn up for his shift at least 20 minutes before the beginning of the shift. And then what he'll do, he'll have to go to the locker room and get the uniform issued, and then he'll have to change to the new dress that has been issued to him, change to the new uniform, right? And the procedure, the various standards have been prescribed here, right? Now ensure that the body odor is addressed. Ensure all accessories which are part of uniform are worn. So you don't only have to wear the uniform, you also have to wear the accessories. For example, it could be the necklace, or it could be some earring that you have to certainly wear, right? Now this kind of standard operating procedure you would find with air service providers, airlines also. So you would find that all the air hostesses would be dressed in the same kind of attire and would have the same kind of perfume. They would be wearing the same kind of perfume as well, because you have specified everything and there would be less chance of variability, right? Then you can also prescribe service quality standards. What do we mean by them? What is the difference between the third and the fourth point? Service quality standard means how fast, for example, you have to provide the service, how quick the service has to be provided, right? Now let me give you an example of what happens when you go to an Indian post office, right? When you go there, you would see this kind of a board hanging on the wall, and you would see the service standards prescribed here. Now booking of articles should not take more than 5 minutes, right? What does this mean? This means that the management is ensuring that if some customer turns in and he wants to book his article, he should not be kept waiting for more than 5 minutes. So whosoever the customer is who has turned in to book the articles, no customer will have to be kept waiting for more than 5 minutes. So in this sense, now you have reduced the variability. So this is how you can reduce variability, right? Fine. And not only you have to prescribe the service quality standards, but you also have to ensure that they are implemented, because if you are not able to get them implemented, they are of no use. And that is why you still have to wait for more than 5 minutes to get get your speed post booked. Why? Because there is lack of implementation. So if you want to ensure that the customer is satisfied, you don't only have to prescribe but also ensure that the service quality standards are implemented. And then you have to monitor the customer feedback. You can have a customer helpline wherein the customer can call up and complain. You can conduct random customer surveys. The customers who have been to your service location and who have bought your service, you can contact them and find out how they felt about the service delivery process, what their experience has been. You can conduct lost customer analysis. What do we mean by this? You can find out from the customers who have switched to some other brand as to why they actually switched, why were they dissatisfied, what dissatisfied them, and this can give you an idea whether there is still a lot of service quality issues with your service. And then you can also conduct ghost surveys. Ghost surveys are when people in the management, they pose as customers and go to the service provider location posing as a customer, and then they look for themselves how the service is being provided. For example, if I am the head of a hotel chain or a restaurant chain, or let's say I am the owner of Meghna, what I can do is I can go and pose as a customer and order some food, and then I can have a first-hand experience of how my waiters deal with customers. So this is called a ghost survey, right? So you can do these kind of things as well. Now let's have a look at the marketing implication for perishability. What do we mean by perishability? You cannot store services. So that is what we mean by perishability, and I've said that this is generally the case with services but not with all services. Now what do you do to get rid of perishability or to somehow tackle perishability? You cannot store services, right? So you have to ensure that you are producing this service when it is being demanded by the customer. In other words, your supply should match the demand. And how do you do that? You have to either do something with the supply, you have to either control the supply, or you have to control the demand. So we'll take up both of them one by one. How do you control, or how do you somehow influence the demand? These kind of actions are known as demand side interventions. What do we do this? Differential pricing shifts demand to non-peak periods. Now what happens here, please understand, movie ticket prices, and this actually I have taken up from American movie theater chain. So they have a look at the prices, $8 on Wednesday and $13 on weekend. Why have they done that? Do you understand? On weekends people are free and they generally go and watch movies, but that is not the case on weekdays. So what have they done? They've gone for differential pricing. Now what will happen? Some of the customers might be induced by this low price on Wednesday, and instead of going to the movie theater on Saturday or weekend, they would go on Wednesday. So this way you would be able to shift the demand from peak period to non-peak period, because otherwise what is happening, there is excess demand on weekends, so you are not able to cater to all the customers, while on weekdays most of your seats remain unfilled, right? So this way you are trying to shift the demand from non-peak period to from the peak period to the non-peak period. And then you can also cultivate non-peak demands. Now have a look at this. You can try to get the customer to your location during the non-peak hours. Have a look at this. India Ka Raja Delicious. It looks like a restaurant which also provides you bar services. And what have they said? Have a look at this. Daily 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. happy hour, which means special dinner, and then you would be getting the dinner at discount also. Why 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.? Because restaurants generally open around 2 to 3 p.m. and they work till late in night, so they generally open around 2 to 3 p.m. But naturally they might not be getting any customers 5 to 8 p.m. and the customers generally start turning up after 8 for the dinner. So what they've done is they've tried to cultivate non-peak demand. And how they've tried to cultivate non-peak demand? Have a look at these. You don't have these for your dinner, you generally have this for evening snack. You have generally these kind of things, for example a tea or a coffee for as an evening snack. And for example, if you look at these Pepsi bottles or maybe these kind of fruit drinks, you generally have them, or paneer pakoras as snacks. So what they've done is 5 to 8 they have created non-peak demand, which means they are offering services during 5 to 8 because at that point of time their outlet is generally, it does not seize many customers. So you are offering extra service at that point of time. You are offering snacks and at a discounted price. So those who want to have snacks, they can also come down, and this way 5 to 8 also the occupancy rates would be higher and the seats would not remain unoccupied, right? And then you can go in for a reservation system wherein the customer will reserve much in advance of his consumption. So if I want to go from Pithoragarh to, let's say, Delhi, and I want to take a train from Haldwani to Delhi on 1st of December, I can book my tickets well in advance. Now the Indian Railways have a clear idea of what would be the demand on 1st of December, and then they can adjust their supply to this particular demand. So you can come in, you can go in for these kind of reservation systems as well. Now let's have a look at the supply side interventions. How can you match supply to demand? By going for supply side intervention. Now this time we are not going to do anything with the demand, we are only going to talk about the supply side. Part-time employees for peak demand periods. In case of a restaurant which opens at 2 and closes at 11 in the evening, you know that the peak periods, let's say, are 8 to 11. So 2 to 8 I can only run the restaurant with maybe 2 or 3 waiters, but for the peak period, that is from 5 or let's say 8 to 11, I will hire part-time employees, part-time waiters. So I'll hire 5 or 6 part-time waiters so that I can deal with the extra rush of customers at the peak periods, right? Then you can also share equipments and space with other service providers. Now what do we mean by this? Please understand, let's say as a restaurant, you know that very few customers would visit you from 2 p.m. to, let's say, 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. in the evening. So what you can do is, in the meanwhile, you can provide your furniture to some other service provider, right? You can also provide your furniture to maybe a coffee house or to a school, and in the meanwhile, when there are no customers at your place, you can make good use of that furniture and you can charge the other company or the other business for that particular furniture. So this way you can share equipment and space with other service providers. Or from 2 p.m. in the afternoon till 7, when the customers start arriving for dinner, what you can do is you can start running, you can offer your space to be used by a dance troupe which teaches dancing to students, right? So your space would be occupied for that particular point of time and you would get paid for it, right? So this is another thing that you can do. And you can also encourage customer participation in service delivery. Now this is a Gurudwara. You have been to a Gurudwara, I hope you remember, in Nanak Matta, and you would have washed your utensils on your own. And when you wash your utensils on your own, and everybody does that, every visitor to the Gurudwara does that, you do not need people to wash utensils, and this way you can reduce the requirement of service providers. You can cater to demand from a large group of customers also without having to hire too many service providers. So for example, I'm giving just an example. If you go to McD and you have to collect your food on your own, which is basically an example of customer participation in the service delivery. There are no waiters out there, you have to collect your food on your own, you have to collect your order on your own. This would mean that they do not have to hire waiters and they can deal with excess footfall of the customers even without having to rely on too many waiters. Fine. So this is how you can encourage customer participation in service delivery, and then you can make use of self-service technology. When there is a lot of rush, you can divert the customers to self-service technology where the customers can get themselves serviced without any other human intervention. They can make use of this machine. For example, they have come to the railway station to buy the ticket. Now there is an automatic ticket vending machine. So this is an example of a self-service technology. They can get their tickets on their own. They can get the tickets issued on their own, and you do not need an extra ticket clerk issuing them tickets. Again, this is self-service technology used in FMCG space, wherein you can put in a 5 rupee coin and 10 rupee coin, punch in your choice. So these are different chocolates and biscuits out there. You have to punch in, and they are marked with a particular number, and you have to punch in the number of the product which you want to buy, and then you have to insert the coin, and that particular product would actually come out of this particular place, right? So these are called self-service technology, and you do not need a particular individual to man this particular counter. So this is how you can deal with excess inflow of customers. Thank you very much.